I am cutting off my sister after she put my child in danger. I, 32F, have one sister, 26F, that I have always had a strenuous relationship with. We didn't get along as kids, but after growing up, both of us getting married and her moving away, we managed to build some sort of fragile relationship. A call or text once in a while, and when she and her husband would come home to visit, we would be sure to see them before they left town again. I have a son, the 3M, who is autistic and the light of my life. He is a very sweet and happy child. He's just nonverbal and has a lot of sensory issues and developmental delays. My husband, 34M, works, and I am a SAHM. This allows me to be able to give my son the one-on-one attention that he needs, as well as take him to his doctor's appointments and various therapies. My husband doesn't make a ton of money, but it's enough for us. We own our home, and our bills are paid every month. I'm a bit of a neat freak, so our house is always clean, or as clean as it can be with a toddler. And since I don't work, I do most of the cooking as well. I don't drink because of a medical issue I have, and my husband only drinks on special occasions, and usually at a friend's house. I say all of this to say that we live in a clean home with plenty of food on the table, and there is no alcohol in our home. You will see why this is relevant in a moment. I have a cousin, 23F, who didn't have the best upbringing. Her father wasn't really in the picture. Her mother was a bit of a basket case and had a parade of men through their lives over the years. My cousin struggles a lot with drugs, and she isn't in the best living situation. Last I checked, she was living in a rundown home one city over with 4 of her friends and her boyfriend. We were all a little surprised and concerned when we found out last year that she was pregnant. She managed to clean herself up during the pregnancy. She and her boyfriend got their own place, and she was doing really well when the baby finally came. She had a boy, who is very sweet and very adorable, but he had some health issues because of the drug use at the beginning of her pregnancy. I recently heard that my cousin relapsed. Because of this, she lost her job and they lost their housing. They moved back in with the 4 friends again. Everyone in the family was concerned for her, but we were really worried about the baby and the environment that they were living in. A few weeks ago, I was devastated when I heard that her child had been removed from her care after an anonymous tip to CPS. Whatever her faults, I know she loved that baby. The baby was placed with my cousin's grandparents. My dad was the one who told me about everything that was going on, and he mentioned that my sister was really upset because she and my cousin had always been close. I mentioned something about hoping that this is a wake-up call to her, and that maybe this is what she needed to get her life straight so she could get her son back. I didn't mean anything malicious when I said it. It was just something I hoped would happen. I do want the best for my cousin and her child. A week ago, I was home with my son and there was a knock at my door. I answered the door and there were 2 agents from CPS on my porch. I was shocked. They were very polite and introduced themselves and said they had received an anonymous tip that my son was in danger. I didn't feel comfortable letting them inside, but my son was standing right behind me and they could see him. From what I could tell, someone called them and reported that my child was in danger because I was on drugs, my husband was an alcoholic, we were living in squalor, and my child was being neglected. I informed them that I was not on drugs. There was no alcohol in the house, and I let them look into my home and see that it was clean. We talked for a while longer, and they could obviously see that my son was not being neglected. He was clean, and clothed and happily eating a snack while I was talking to them. They deemed that this was clearly a false report and apologized for wasting my time. I apologized to them. I felt I had to, because they had wasted their time in coming out at all. One of the ladies left a card and said to call in a few days to make sure the case was marked as a false report and that she would make sure there were no repercussions. I have heard horror stories about CPS visits, so I consider myself to be very lucky that it went as well as it did. I didn't have anything to hide, but it still made me nervous. After they left my house, as you can imagine, I was livid. I called my dad to tell him what had happened, and he got really angry. He told me that he'd had a conversation with my sister a couple weeks ago, and he had mentioned what I said about my cousin's situation. Apparently, she had gotten angry about what I said, and had made a snide remark about how I would have more sympathy if it happened to me. He hung up with me so he could call my sister. An hour later, he called me back and informed me that my sister had told him that she was the one to call CPS and file the false report because she thought I was the one who called them on my cousin. I wasn't. And she wanted me to learn a lesson in empathy. Both of my parents took my side and berated her and told her what she did was absolutely wrong. Not only was it an abuse of an already broken and backed up system, but it put my son in unnecessary danger as well. I tried calling my sister, but she wouldn't return my calls or texts. That was fine with me. I blocked her on everything and told my parents I was cutting her off. My dad agreed, but my mom said that was too harsh, that she was still my family, no matter what she did. I told her that if my sister cared anything about me, she never would have done something like this to me, and that any family that would do this to me or my child was no family that I wanted to be around. I also said that she was lucky I didn't call the police and turn my sister in for making a false report. She said I'm being an asshole because, yes, what my sister did was bad, but she doesn't deserve to lose part of her family because of it, and she certainly doesn't deserve to be turned into the police. Mom and I aren't speaking now because we can't agree. I haven't decided if I'm going to turn my sister in yet.